Welcome to the Midnight Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Easton Bennett, alongside my fellow co-host, Tyler and Easton. We are both entrepreneurs who are learning, growing, and building our own businesses. Our goal is to share experience and knowledge to help you grow and become a successful entrepreneur. Before we get started, if you have any questions or things you'd like us to cover, you can email us at themidnightentrepreneur@gmail.com, and we will talk about it right here on this very show every single week on Monday mornings. If you haven't already, share the podcast with a friend or a foe. Strap it in. Tyler, what is going on?
Not too much, Easton. We're just over here. Another day grinding. That's about what's going on. What's going on with you?
Not a whole lot. I am currently obviously in a different space right now. I'm in Bismarck for the week, but it's becoming a common theme on the show. I just go to a new space every single week, and that's all right.
You know what? We get it done no matter what.
Podcast gets done no matter if I'm in Guam or Bismarck or on my couch at home.
It gets done. That's all that matters. Consistency.
That is all that matters.
Except for
that one day. Except for one episode, but you guys got to let us know.
I'll never forget that.
It's our Roman Empire now.
Yeah.
As the kids are saying.
We're going to get to like 1,000 episodes, and I'm going to be like, that one time.
Yep. 999 minus one.
We let it slip.
Tyler, what is going on since the week that we have quote unquote spoke on the podcast? We've obviously spoken between then, but what's new with you? Give the listeners some updates.
Just thinking a little bit more about intrapreneurship, where trying to provide a lot or more value for the company I work for to make it worth the value that I'm being paid, and trying to surpass the amount that I'm being paid and being like, this is how much value I'm providing for you guys. Okay, let's try and increase the amount of money that I'm getting paid. So I'm just trying to shift my mindset a little bit on that at work, and then a little bit of the same thing with my clients. And it's kind of the same thing because we had a call and he brought up the expense for me hiring me and doing all the work. And it just kind of made me think, okay, how can I deliver as much value as possible to him where he doesn't have to think about that, where it's like, I'm getting a huge ROI just paying this guy X amount of dollars, and he's giving me triple that or 5 times that. So I'm just trying to think about that a little bit more, where it's like providing value and being worth what you're being paid, or at least being paid. What is that? Being paid, like deliver more value to the client is what I'm trying to think more of.
Yeah, I think more people should have that mindset, Tyler. I know I started with but we can do that from time to time. I think more people should. Yeah, you can start here and there.
Yeah.
I don't see why not. More people should have that mindset to actually provide more value than they're being paid, because that's the point of an employee. If I'm paying someone $5,000 a month, I'm hoping that their return as a business owner, I'm making more than $5,000 a month on what they're doing. Sometimes it's more tangible to track, other times it's not, but that's an ideal situation where whatever you're paying them, you're getting more back revenue-wise.
How do you think you'll track that with Spencer? Will you track it?
I'm going to try to track it. I thought about that a little bit, and for the people that are new here, Spencer, editor for the business that will be starting, well, he's already started, but I'm going to track it a little bit, mainly the projects that I'm giving him, tracking how long it takes him to do that, tracking, if it takes him 8 hours to edit a project, okay, take his hourly rate times that and see what I'm actually charging the client and seeing what that difference looks like. Might be a little bit harder to track if we get to the point where he edits a project and then he sits around for 2-3 days with no project to edit, but I don't see that happening in the near future. So yeah, I'm going to track it. I don't know if it'll be 100% accurate to the dot, but it will at least give me a good idea of if I need to raise prices or what that looks like.
In this specific scenario, if Spencer does listen, how would he be able to go above and beyond to give BCM more value and provide more revenue to the company?
He doesn't listen, I know that for a fact, but if he stumbles upon this episode one time, maybe I'll put his name in the title so he maybe gets hit in the algorithm. But I think just the better at editing, the further along in the editing process that he can complete a video compared to the amount of time I have to put it into it is really going to change the value that he's providing. Right now, he's to the point where he can do a lot of the preliminary stuff where he is sifting through the footage and maybe putting together and piecing together the story a little bit. But a lot of the actual storytelling and video delivery still lands in my lap. So I think the more experience he gets, the more reps he puts in, he'll be able to deliver more value. But again, you have to know it is a learning process. It's going to take a little bit of time to build to that point.
So basically taking work off your plate so it frees up your time because your time's valuable.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Sometimes I think fuck off with my time, but
don't we all?
Yeah.
Can't be perfect. We can't all be perfect, but I think that is a place where a lot of people do start, especially when you're a smaller company and maybe only have a couple of employees. You basically go to the top person and say, what can I do or to take work off your plate? Or don't even ask them. You come and be like, hey, I can do this for you, or hey, let me take that off your plate. I'll do that for you. And don't, because if you go to them and be like, hey, what can I do? That kind of makes them say, okay, like now they got to think about what they can give you. So it's like making them actually think. So basically just trying to take work off their plate. But so I think that's more in a smaller work scenario where you only have maybe a couple employees. And I really see that at the place I work at. The president, way back in the day, she used to take so much work off of the CEO's plate, and that's what she would always do. And I think now where she's at now, that it kind of shows because she was able to climb up. But I think for maybe like a bigger business, it's kind of looking at like how much money do you make and how much revenue do you actually bring into that company? Because if you don't bring in like any revenue, it's like, okay, you get these pills out to people, or you get stuff, I don't know, you're a cashier. Like how it's tough to actually get that value, but maybe like you're the best cashier in the world, and it makes people like your interaction with those people, it makes people want to come back and interact with you, and like you're valuable in that sense. So I think you just got to try and find value wherever you're at, and if you're able to generate more revenue, then you're actually taking away from the business.
I don't have a ton of employees or a big team, but it would be cool if more employees at any business, not just the businesses that we have, but any business, if the employees see that cycle, if the business owner is doing it right, is going to benefit them as well. The more they do and take off of my plate, the more revenue that the business is going to make, which in turn allows to give the employee a raise or the employee a bonus of some sort. So it does come full circle. The more you provide, the more value you can bring, the better it's going to be for the business, which in turn, the better it is for you because we can pay you more money. So that is something that I'm going to try to not preach to Spencer, but talk to him about and say, hey, I'm going to start you at this salary, but the more the business grows, and if you can start getting projects out the door faster and free up more of my time and allow me to sell more, allow me to market more, it's only going to make the business bigger and allow me to pay you more money. So having that conversation early, I think helps, and hopefully you get some buy-in from the employee, but not all employees are really going to believe that mentality. They might think, yeah, you're going to take the profits and I'm not going to see any of it. But that happens in some cases. But if you're working for a good company, ideally it translates back to you.
You got to paint the vision, and you got to have a massive vision. Ed always talks about that. He's like, you got to have this massive dream, this massive goal, and then that massive goal, their dreams and goals has to fit within it. So that's like how big you need to make your vision of like what you want the company to be. It's got to like, everyone else has to fit in there.
I always took something from Gary Vee when I was watching all his videos going through high school and just after high school. But the one thing he did with a lot of his employees or new hires is he would ask them, what is your goal? What do you actually want to get out of this? Because then you can tailor the work and the way you can get them to that point. Maybe some people's goal is, hey, I want to work here forever, or I want to become an account manager, whatever that is. Maybe some people's goal is, hey, I just want to work here for 2 years for experience. So the way you tailor those employees and treat those employees is going to look a little bit differently, but you can at least get that employee to where they want to go.
Have you asked Spencer that yet?
I have asked him that yet, and he hasn't given me really a clear answer, and it's because I don't know if he knows what the answer is. I don't think he has a grand vision of what video editing can turn into. I think right now he's He's looking, yeah, I know, I'm going to be like, this is where you're going then if you won't give me an answer. But giving him an idea of, hey, this is what it could turn into. I think he's at the point where he just wants some sort of career, have something stable where he can see some sort of vision. So yeah, going to have those conversations with him for sure. But it is important to stay on the forefront of those conversations with your employees moving forward. Again, we don't have a ton of experience hiring employees with half of one under both of our belts right now. But it is good to
Solid
think about.
average.
Yeah, exactly. 0.25 each.
Do you think you can see him there long term?
Yeah, I would say so. I think as long as things go well, the vision that I have of him freeing up more on my plate, I'll have to see some progress, and hopefully I can see him getting better at the video editing aspect. If it's stagnant for 2 years of, okay, you're not really providing a ton, you're not really getting better, then it's a conversation you maybe have to have. But again,
maybe he needs a different seat in the boat.
Yeah, give him another oar.
Yeah, maybe he'd be better suited at sales, or I don't know how long Matt's going to be there, but maybe he'd be better suited somewhere else.
And the nice part about that is you have more flexibility once you have, I think the first couple people to a business when you are bringing people on are probably the most important to fill those roles and those gaps that need filling. Whereas you can have a little bit more flexibility in moving people around the company to different roles when you have the ability to do that. But if right now, he wasn't doing it, I'd say, well, right now my biggest need is an editor. So I have to let you go and find somebody else that can fill this role better.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it does go well. What's going on with you?
Fingers crossed it goes well. The only other update, I guess that wasn't one of my updates. I was kind of building on.
Yeah, we just kind of talked about that.
Building on what you had mentioned there, Tyler. But one update I have is I couldn't really sleep last night. I was thinking about this a ton. And it's the thought of the business having more so a structure and a machine that you can make predictions based on. So I'm going to try to explain this as clear as I can, but a lot of times in business, especially in my business, you get these one-off projects and you're like, awesome, this is great. But you never know, like tomorrow, what if jobs stop coming in? What if leads stop coming in? Or what if you had, 3 months where nobody reaches out? Where right now I don't have a system or anything where, hey, here's my exact sales system. I know I'm getting X number of leads and I know we can translate that into X number of sales so we can forecast that our revenue is going to be here. And it's really hard to grow without that structure where you say, hey, I know if we look at the business trajectory, we know we're going to get here. But right now it's a lot of hope and prayer and luck and wish. I'm like, oh, I hope someone fills out a form on my website, or I hope someone refers me to somebody else, where I want to start focusing on how can I implement more of a structure where I know, okay, we can almost guarantee that 10 to 15 people a month are going to be talking to us about video production services, and then our job is to sell that. But if you have, we're getting 1 to 10, who knows who reaches out, that's going to be a lot harder. So hopefully I explained that a little bit, but that's what I've been thinking a lot about lately is how can we come up with a machine that we can actually forecast and project growth rather than, hopefully I have enough money to get this done.
Tracking your numbers, tracking how many leads come in, website sessions, and then nurturing them.
The tracking is good, but I think actually getting more people into that, more people to track is ideal, because I can track, be like, okay, I have 3. Now what?
But if you've been tracking maybe say since the start and you have a spreadsheet, it's like January, February, March, April, May, and you have each month 2020, 2021, 2022, and then you have every single number laid out, you get a good idea of like, are you trending in the right direction? Are you going up? Are you going down? What happened this month? We got 10x the amount of leads that month. So you'd be able to kind of go back, and then maybe you can get like a solid average of like, how many leads do we average on a month? How many sales do we average on a month? And then it's just the whole system. Maybe you need does Vidlead not do this?
It does, but I'm talking more, so that's the tracking aspect is good, but I see that as reactive, right? You're just looking at the numbers like, what's happening? Where I'd like to implement but I want to implement a structure where I know, okay, this structure is getting us these numbers. Whereas right now, do I want to track? Yeah, I can track the numbers, but what am I tracking? I'm tracking random people that go to the website. I'm tracking, random people that email me, whatever that looks like. I want some sort of structure where I know, and maybe it's just, to dumb it down, is just having some sort of lead structure to push leads.
Yeah, I guess so. I think the tracking is kind of what maybe I'm just misunderstanding, but to me it just seems like tracking, and then you can formulate predictions off of the tracking, because it's like we average 12 leads a month. I don't know. Maybe I'm just way out in left field.
No, I think you're right. You're looking at there's a FedEx truck drove by. I was like, what is that reflection? You're looking at the analytics of it, which is good, but you're looking at the current what's coming in. Whereas right now, there's nothing really pushing anything in. So the only thing you'll be tracking is just randomness, right? Where it'd be easier to track an actual task or activity that you're doing. So if I said, hey, I'm setting up this content funnel, or I'm setting up this ad, I can then track, okay, this is bringing us 20 leads a month. Then we know, okay, this avenue is bringing us 20, or, the podcast. The podcast is bringing us 4 leads a month, because we have this structure set up that once they're on the show, we'll put them through this funnel, we'll reach out to them for sales, whatever that looks like. So the tracking aspect is fantastic. I'm not disagreeing with you there. It's good to have, and I think it helps make educated guesses and predictions. But having actually some sort of structure or multiple structures that are getting you that data to track is what I'm talking about.
HubSpot does a pretty good job at that. I don't know if there's competitors to HubSpot, but I know HubSpot costs quite a bit. Can, at least.
What does HubSpot do? Is it a CRM?
Yeah, it's a CRM.
Yeah, I'm sure VidLead's super similar.
Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe you just got to dive into it a little bit more. But I know whenever a contact comes in, they get traced back to how they came to us, like organic search, paid social, which campaign, paid search, which campaign. And there's a whole bunch of ways that you can track it and see exactly which one they're coming in from. So I think that would maybe help out. Maybe there's a competitor to it, because I know HubSpot can be pretty pricey, especially for where you're at. I don't think you need exactly that, but maybe it's an option, or maybe something similar to that.
Yeah, VidLead does something similar. I haven't really dove into it a whole lot, but you can track, right now the only data I'm getting is, contact came from website form, or contact came from Google search, or whatever that pops up. But I'm sure you can set up data where it comes from a Facebook pixel, or it comes from an ad, or whatever that looks like. I just haven't dove into it a ton.
Maybe. Got to set it up. Did you track your sleep yet?
No, I was going to do that. I'll have to do that.
Yeah. You have to do that.
Forgot about
definitely
that.
did.
Dropped my watch. Did I talk about that on the podcast when I went to New York? I dropped my watch and it shattered the second I got to the airport in Minot. It was a hot start to the trip.
Yeah. Got to build a client for it.
Sucks. Sucks ass. The only other update I got on my list here is, I know last week we talked about the office space. I had a update call today with the gentleman that will be sharing the office space, and he was pretty excited about everything. He agreed to most of the things that I put on the list. He had a couple questions here and there about logistics, and that's totally okay. So we're waiting on permission on if we can build out different offices, which is kind of a big thing that we needed in this, because it's one giant area. We need to chop it up into some smaller usable rooms. So that went well. That was just before we're filming this podcast, and hopefully we'll have some more information today and tomorrow on that, and then can start sharing more information on the office/studio space.
You excited about that?
Yeah, pretty excited. I'm trying to keep it under wraps, and I know, maybe someone hears it on the podcast. If you do, then you got a little Easter egg, but I want to do a big reveal where one day I'm just like, oh yeah, by the way, a new thing, we have an office space. Instead of like, we're thinking about an office space. One day it's just boom, they have one, and it's more of a grand reveal than, oh, we're thinking about it. Here's what our plans are. Let's just show it off.
The overnight success.
Exactly. People don't know. Talking about it for a month and a half.
There you go. Almost there.
So
hopefully
I have more updates on that in the coming weeks. If you are a family member or a friend and you're listening to this, Easter egg, surprise, don't tell anybody. But Tyler, you got any updates for us? Anything else before we hop into this week's business idea?
No, we're not on business idea yet.
Yeah, of course not, because we're on this week's topic. Yeah, business ideas later, guys. Tricked you. All right, so this week we are going to be
paying attention.
Somebody has to. I'm just throwing you a curveball.
Yeah, you should do that every now and then. Make sure I'm paying attention.
Yeah. This week we talk about tell you a totally different wrong topic and see if you catch it. But this week we're actually going to be talking about the elusive elephant client. Tyler, what is an elephant client? What do we mean by that?
So basically, what an elephant client is a client that takes up majority of your account or your revenue. So basically, they could inflate your numbers very significantly and make you look a lot better than you actually are on paper. Maybe you pull in 10K revenue per month, and then you end up landing this one client that charges, or you pull in 100K from them. So all of a sudden, you're at 110K per month, and that one client just inflates your numbers like crazy. And then if they happen to leave, you're screwed, and maybe you tried to scale for having them there. So basically, elephant client is this really massive client that takes up the majority of your account.
It's an outlier. It really is. And
Yeah.
we're going to talk about outliers down the road. And we want to talk about why elephant clients, you need to tiptoe around them a little bit because, like Tyler said, it does inflate things. It gives you a clouded view of what the business actually looks like. If I was making $100,000 a year and one client was paying me $80,000, one day you might lose that client and now your business doesn't look so good. Now you're only making $20,000 a year and you might be looking for a W-2 job. I do actually have a little bit of an experience with this. When I was first starting my business, I had one client that was paying me $54,000 a year. And I would say you could classify that as an elephant client. And they left. I think it was, 2 or 3 years ago, I got an email that said, hey, we're no longer going to need your services, blah, 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 which happens. In business, you're not going to keep every client forever. The downside of this is that I wasn't prepared for it. And I took it for granted, you could say. I didn't save the money that they were paying me. I just assumed they'd be with me forever. And I was early on in my business journey, so I didn't know these things and I did neglect it. But I did have that one elephant client, and it does suck.
What'd you learn from the experience?
One, I learned from the experience, and what we're going to talk about a lot of it and how to kind of avoid these things that I learned, but never take anything for granted, that you never know what might happen tomorrow or the next day or the next week. You might have a great relationship with a client and you might be providing them a great product, but things happen. Maybe they get a divorce with their wife or whatever it is, and they got to split the business or sell the business or whatever that looks like. Or maybe the business is moving a different direction and they don't want to use your product or service. So you never know what happens where there could be a change to your business. So that's the first thing, is never take anything for granted. Always prepare for the worst case scenario. I'd say now that I've went through that, if I ever get an elephant client like that that's paying me $50, $60, $70, $100,000 a year, I'm preparing for worst case scenario. I'm preparing that they're going to pay me for 1 month and then they're gone. We're going to go into a little bit of the issues you can run into. I didn't specifically run into them, but a few issues that you might run into if you do neglect the elephant client that you have.
With your experience, I know you didn't really scale that much. What'd you do with the money? Did you just buy a lot of equipment, spend it on expenses, or what did you end up doing with the money?
Yeah. Of course, it gave me some security that, I have this client and they can pay my personal expenses and pay my salary, and maybe I can get some gear here and there. But the biggest thing is that I wasn't taking care of the rest of my clients. I kind of pushed them off to the side like, they're important, they're my clients, they're paying me money, but this one's way more important. They're paying me $54,000 a year, right? So I neglected the other clients that I had and didn't put as much thought and care into them as I should have. Whereas the day that I lost this $54,000 client, oh shit. Now I have a bad relationship with these people that I've neglected. I've got to go out and find new work. Now I can't pay my bills. Now I can't buy new equipment, whatever that looks like. So that was the other big thing, that I took it for granted that these other clients are also paying me money, and I can't just focus on this one elephant client because they pay me more.
It's a tough time, but you made it through.
It was a tough time, and it's a learning experience too.
I believe, what's kind of crazy about that is I'm pretty sure that happened and we were we've been filming the podcast, and I'm pretty sure you talked a little bit about that on the podcast, like way back when we were starting this out.
I did, yeah.
So.
It was, I can't remember what episode exactly, but I did mention it. It did suck. I didn't say any names of the client or anything. I wanted to keep that confidential. But yeah, they were paying me $54,000 a year, multiple year contract, so over $100,000 they paid me in the lifetime of it, and I just took it for granted. I just thought it was going to be there. And of course, those are lessons you learn in business. I had no one to learn from or to give me this information. So hopefully this podcast, if you're just starting, gives you the same information, that don't take those things for granted. But yeah, it did suck. I do remember talking about that on the podcast a little bit.
So it would have been about maybe a year and a half ago. So that does kind of suck.
Yeah. So Tyler, let's talk about some red flags. Why are these elephant clients potentially red flags in a business? And we talked about it a little bit, but what are the repercussions of a business that might have one that isn't using that client in the right way or isn't being smart about it? Maybe that's a better way to phrase it.
Okay. So I believe if you do end up getting this client, you might end up spending a lot of money that you might not get in the future. You want to be smart with that money and save it, because if this client just ends up leaving, so maybe they're paying you a crap ton of money that you never ended up having before, and you're like, oh yeah, now I've finally made it in business, all my hard work kind of paid off, and then you go out buy like a Lamborghini, now you got these expenses, and now you basically have to keep this client because now you got all these expenses for the car, and now you got to pay for the gas, you got to pay for the insurance. That client ends up leaving you. Now all of a sudden you got to pay for this car that you have, and you can't afford it anymore because that one client left. And additionally, if it's other stuff, say you try and scale your business, maybe you try and bring in employees, try and scale your business and build it up, you are kind of planning to have this client stay there, where if they're just really inflating the numbers, it's really deceiving, because if, like I was saying before with the example of 10,000 versus 100,000, if there's a big difference between 10,000 and 110,000. So it's like, okay, now I can bring in maybe 3 people, and then we're going to try and build it up. But it's like that one day when that person leaves, you're back down to $10,000. You were focusing on them, and now you can't afford those 3 people that you just hired because you were accounting for that $100,000 client to stay with you forever.
That's the biggest thing. I think making the drastic decisions, the drastic business decisions, you can't do that because, like we talked about earlier, they might leave tomorrow or next week. They might, get a divorce, have to sell their business, whatever it is. So we're not saying elephant clients are a bad thing. Obviously, anyone would take a client that pays them $50,000 a year, or 10 clients that pay them $50,000 a year. But there are smart ways to do it, whereas what Tyler was saying, if you get one $50,000 client and you say, okay, they sign on for a year, awesome, let's hire 3 editors and let's hire a producer and we'll hire a DP. Okay, awesome. So you just hired 5 people, and now after a year they leave, now you're screwed. You can't afford the people you hired. You have to lay people off, and that's never a good situation. You don't want to have to hire people, or you don't want to have to move out of the new office space you just moved into because you now had this big whale of a client. So yeah, that's where you need to make educated decisions with these clients. And it's not saying, we're not saying if someone comes to you and says, hey, we want a lot, and you charge them $100,000 a year, we're not saying don't do that. But when you do charge the $100,000, keep in mind, that's not forever. Use that money in a smart way. And if you can switch your mindset to, this is a great opportunity for me to get ahead, for me to save a little bit of money, and maybe potentially grow my business slowly, that's when you're, what do they say? That's when you're cooking with Crisco or something like that.
Yeah, cooking with Crisco. Yeah. I think a good way to approach that is pretending like you're not actually receiving whatever that elephant client is paying you, and you're being really smart with that money. So say you're at $10,000, this $100,000 client comes in, and maybe you just pretend that they're only paying you like $5,000, and then you basically pocket the rest of the $95,000 and kind of still run your business as is, and maybe use that extra $5,000 to hire someone else out and try and build it up from there. But even potentially there, that might be risky at the same time, because same thing, they leave, you're kind of toast. So it's like you want to be really smart with that money. And I think at the same time, going into other stuff, if investors do come in, or you're trying to look for investor help, maybe you like get this elephant client, and then you try and go into the bank or try and go find some venture capitalist or angel investor, and they end up looking at your balance sheets and they just see you go from this point to way up here. Then they're going to be like, okay, I don't know if I really want to come in and invest, because 80% of your revenue is coming from this one client. That one client leaves, like my investment's gone basically. So I think that's another part that can potentially scare off investors or scare off other people, is just having that elephant client where like maybe if you have that elephant client for say a year, and you show that you spent the money really well, or you saved the money really well, it might change their decision. But at the same time, just having it makes it a little bit more tough, because it inflates the numbers quite a bit.
I had something I was going to say and I lost it. Oh, profit first. I was going to talk about profit first. Sorry, Tyler. You just kept going and going and going. I was like, I'm going to lose it.
Just raise your hand and be like,
yeah, I got
just
something.
Like in class.
Profit first made me think about, when you said if they're paying you $10,000 and you just pretend they're paying you $5,000, maybe you allocate a percentage of what that client is paying you towards the business for steady growth. Let's say, okay, 50% of the money is going to go into my bank account. We're going to use that to grow at a reasonable rate instead of skyrocketing. And then the other 50%, you're going to take it and you're going to put it stashed away in a different account, or you're going to put it towards something else that you can have for later. One of the biggest things that a lot of business owners that are maybe just starting, I don't think realize, is how nice it is to have just an account of cash, and to not have to say, okay, what clients am I going to have to get this month to pay myself, or what clients am I going to have to get this month to pay my subscription fees. If you have a client that's paying you $100,000 and you can put $50,000 into a business rainy day fund, that's going to help a ton, because you never know when clients are going to dry up or leads are going to dry up, and you have that extra money over there. So that's one thing that I've learned along the business journey, is that having cash is not going to be the end of the world. You don't have to, once you get it, spend it on something, right? So have that rainy day fund. What do they call it? A runway. I got 6 months worth of business expenses, or whatever it looks like. Try to build up that account, your runway, before you might start making crazy decisions like, oh, I'm going to hire 3 people, or oh, I'm going to buy this new piece of equipment, whatever that looks like. That runway fund is important.
Cash is king. Emergency fund.
Cash is king.
And then, I think going into that point, you could have, say, like 6 months of expenses or 12 months of expenses covered with that fund, whatever you want to call it. And then it's like, okay, if I bring 2 people in and I saved enough money to be able to cover their expenses for 2 or a year, it's like, okay, we got a year to be able to make it up or cover your expenses. So it's like, okay, let's make this shit happen, where you got that full year of that lead, like if we have to dig into it. So it's like, and it just kind of goes back to like, and this is accounting for, we don't get any new business. So I think just having that extra, like you said, is a good option to have, where you do have that emergency fund runway built up, where it's like, okay, if all things fail, we still have a year's worth covered.
And if you do run into the issue where, if your expenses are $10,000 a month and you have $50,000, okay, I got 5 months. If you can't get new business in 5 months, there's probably a different issue that you need to address rather than the expenses that you have. So ideally, yes, exactly. Ideally, you have, okay, here's my runway, but we don't have to get to the end of that rope. We have that runway in case literally I get hit by a car, or my editor gets hit by a car and he's out, can't work for 5 months. Okay, that's a little bit different. But you don't want to have to be like, okay, I got 50 grand. We could stop doing what we're doing now. Just let's run this out and then we'll build it back up. You just want to have that there, just in case.
So one thing that Spencer's talked to me about at work, not me directly, but like the company at work, is he's mentioned to us like how much because he's really like safe and secure with his money and making sure that he does build up a lot of that emergency fund. And I think it was around last year when I think the market wasn't looking too hot, and he basically talked about like if the absolute worst case scenario happens where we lose all of our clients, we don't gain any more clients, we're good for X amount of months. So it's just I I don't pay attention to the news, so like this wasn't really on my radar that we're going to be going out of business or we're going to have to lay people off. But I saw a few of the people comment on the video that he made, and they're like, "Oh, thanks, Spencer. This is really reassuring." And I was just like, "You thought we were about to go out of business or something like that?" I was just like, it was really surprising to me that because I'm just so oblivious to everything because I kind of don't really pay attention to much.
And there are times when it's going to be like a roller coaster. Not everything's going to be a perfectly linear line going up. There are going to be months that are a little bit slower, and having that extra capital is going to be nice. And that's where the elephant client, if you do it right, it can help you out in the long run. It can really, elephant clients are great for giving you a little bit of injection in life into your business. But if you do it the wrong way, it can really put you in a bad position or in an even worse position than you were originally in, because you have this inflated amount of capital or inflated look on the business, and that's never good. So treat them like a regular client. That's what I'd say.
Learn from your experience and treat them like a regular client. Not like they're paying you 10 times more than all the other clients.
Exactly. And when I get paid big checks, I'm like, yeah, well, whatever. I'm not doing anything with it.
Whatever. I don't care.
So yeah, this shit's easy. Whatever.
Just another day at the office.
Another day, whatever. Well, that's what I was telling you. I think we talked about this on the podcast when I had $50,000 a month. It didn't really feel that different. I was like, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, that's exciting. It's cool mentally, but it's not like my life changed. I didn't have like a new car appear in the driveway, or I didn't have people banging down my door asking me how I did it. It's just another day.
Just another day, just with a little bit extra money.
Yeah.
It makes you feel a little more comfortable.
A little more secure, yeah. Which can be good and it can be bad,
Where's your comfort level? Where's that peak at?
If your security is too high, if you know you're really comfortable, then maybe you stop working as hard. Exactly. And then you got to do something crazy, like move into an office.
Put yourself back against the wall, buy a truck.
Pretty much. I did that too. That's how I actually compared. I was talking to my uncle about the decision. He's like, "Oh, it's the same thing you did with your truck, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, I'm going to do it again. Seemed to work the first time, so.
Isn't that from a movie? And I'll do it again. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a meme that says, "And I'll fucking do it again." It's
yeah.
It's a dog face from whatever, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. The Goofy, I think it is. I'll send you a picture of it. Whatever, getting off topic. Okay. Tyler, what else you got to talk about elephant client? Anything else you think we should mention?
Just being smart with it, because like you're going to have like inflated numbers, and it might feel really nice to have. And I just think you got to be smart with the money and not spend it all and be like, I'm going to buy a new house, I'm going to buy a new car, or I'm going to get 10 employees because all of a sudden I have all this extra money. It's like, just because you have the extra money, it doesn't mean that you have to spend it. I need to tell that to myself.
Me too, sometimes.
Don't buy the bike. Don't buy the bike.
It's always a good reminder, but make your business decisions based on averages. What does your business actually do? Don't do it, "Oh, I did $50,000 this month, so I can hire 3 people." Okay, well, you're probably not going to do $50,000 next month. You might go down to 10, or you might be at 7 or 12, whatever it is. So make your business decisions based on your averages, and don't do any rash, crazy shit. Or you'll be scraping to get back out of the hole that you just dug yourself. You made your bed. You can sleep in it now, big boy.
Maybe some people like to have their backs against the wall, and that's when they perform the best.
Calculated backs against the wall, though. If it leads to circumstances where you're firing people and then you can't pay your credit card debt, whatever it is, that's not back against the wall. I mean, your back is against the wall, but I think you're a little bit deeper in that than you'd like to be. And that's okay.
Definitely.
You can get out of that too.
Yeah.
So
You can always get out if you got enough perseverance.
persevere. Tyler, anything else?
Sir.
Elephant clients?
I don't think so. You got anything?
No, I do not. I think that was pretty concise, pretty good topic there. If you do have an elephant client, congratulations. It's great to have as many of those as you can, but just don't be dumb with the money. And eventually when you get to the point where you have like 100 elephant clients, they're not your elephant clients anymore. That's your regular client. So get to that
There you
point.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then your
But don't
elephant
go out
client's a
searching for
million.
them. Don't go out searching for them because they're rare. They're unicorns at the same time.
Correct. It's relative, you know.
Yeah.
If you're making $10,000 a project and a $50,000 client comes along that pays you, that's maybe not a unicorn. But if you run into someone that's going to pay you $300,000, okay, now you're getting into elephant territory. So it's all relative towards your business size. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. Now I think it's time for the business idea.
Business idea. We preempted
like
it a little bit earlier, but we're going to do it for realsies this time.
We need like an audio graphic for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just thinking about this because I'm going to be taking on some extra work and more of like a blog generator. It could be like AI. I know there's other tools out there. You could use ChatGPT. I know you could use Ask the Public or Answer the Public, whatever it's called. Where you got like 5 different cups to drink out of.
Mm-hmm. Let's see if you notice.
I noticed at least 2, maybe 3. So I think if you have a blog, you say, this is our website, and then maybe you give it like 10 different websites and say, okay, I want you to scan all these websites, and I want you to find keywords that we currently aren't ranking for, that these websites are ranking for, and then come up with specific blog topics that would be ranking for those specific keywords, list out all the keywords, and then maybe it's like creating a whole funnel or like a whole campaign around different blogs that you could come up with. And it's like, this one would be good. It would be able to target these keywords. This one would be good. They would be able to target these keywords. So instead of me having to do all the manual work, because I know you go on ChatGPT and you ask it and it's like, okay, all these ideas aren't bad, but it's like, I've done 9 out of 10 of these ideas already. And then like Answer the Public, it's like, yeah, these aren't too bad. But then it's like, you got to kind of come up with everything on your own. So it's just basically inputting information and then you get everything back on your own.
It's a catalyst. Instead of a catalyst to just get you started on the ideas, you're like, I want more. Give me walk me through it. Yeah. Remove my job.
Exactly. It's like, for you, I mean, still got to be there, but imagine you want to start building out video content. It's like, okay, this is my website. These are 30 different video company websites. What are they ranking for that I am not ranking for? I need blog ideas for that. And then it's like, here's 30 blog ideas. Here's keywords for each blog topic. This is what you're going to write about. These are the headers you're going to write about. These are the questions that people ask about this specific topic. And then it's like, now you got all this information. Then you take all this information, you go back to ChatGPT and you say, make me this blog. Whole bunch of AIs.
I think that's the issue right now when you try to do that on ChatGPT is that it's like, well, I can't search specific websites and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah. I'm like, bullshit. You're searching. I'm like, you're searching specific websites on your own, but now that I tell you to search one, you won't do it. So yeah,
I've been having a little bit of issues with it recently.
I'd like a more comprehensive search. I would use that for sure. Mm-hmm. And if you can have it do it with
Write the blog for you
videos,
too.
with photos, with marketing ideas.
Just complete the whole blog. It's like, okay, let's skip giving you the keywords. Let's skip giving you all the information. Here's the blog. Here's the pictures with it. Everything's already optimized. You got the alt text in there. You got the titles. You just copy and paste this onto your website and boom, you're good.
Eventually, we're just going to get to the point where you're on the website and you just like click and then auto does everything.
Yeah, man. If you get to that, you can charge like thousands of dollars for that a month.
Yeah, until the people learn how to do it themselves, and then your middleman job is gone.
No.
Well, what if your boss learned that you were using it? He's like, I'll just use it and do it.
Exactly.
Then you'd be irrelevant.
No. No, I'd be making this company. I'd be making the blog generator.
Gotcha. So you'd
Yeah.
be, yeah. But the people that are in your current shoes would
Yeah,
be screwed. Yeah.
they're screwed.
Yeah. Fuck the middle class.
Better hope,
right?
or you better hope your company doesn't find out about it, or they can't afford it, because I'm charging like $1,000 per month.
But if it brings results, yeah.
Think about that. Automatically gives you blogs. You don't have to do anything other than copy and paste.
$1,000
And you can
a
do
month.
like,
I think you can charge more than that. $1,000 a month is chump change
true.
for businesses. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, depends on the marketer, but I feel like a kind of standard rate is about $500 per blog. So, I mean, it might be a bit low, yeah.
Yeah.
And if it's completely optimized, completely done, yeah, it might be a little bit low. I don't know. I just kind of threw that number out there. It seemed like a big number.
I like it. I don't know if it's a business idea that me or you can really act on. We don't have much AI experience, but if someone does come up with this, shoot us an email, themidnightentrepreneur@gmail.com. We'll test it for you, and we'll go from there.
We'll partner with you.
Exactly.
We'll invest.
Tyler, anything
As long
else?
as you don't have any elephant clients.
Yeah. If you have an elephant client, you got this. I don't give a shit. I'll still do it.
No, I don't have anything else.
Cool. That's episode 86 of The Midnight Entrepreneur. If you have any questions you'd like us to cover or answer, you can email us at themidnightentrepreneur@gmail.com. If you found value in this content or found this entertaining, share this with a friend or post it on your story. And if you really enjoyed the show, we'd love a rating and a review wherever you're listening. Talk to you guys next week for another episode of The Midnight Entrepreneur.
Every company's greatest assets are its customers, because without customers, there is no company. Michael LaBeouf.